welcome back to the Netherkast. I am Black Cyborg, joined as always by Shadaloo, Razor, and temporary username. How are you guys doing? It is episode 49, and damn does it feel good to be back.
I feel like every time you open with an extended W, we lose 5 subscribers.
Yeah, well, at least I do something for this podcast. What have you done, sir?
Grace you with my magnificent godlike presence?
I thought you were going to run out of breath.
Well, that's all you've done.
Singing.
What's up, guys?
Give us one snake laugh.
Yeah, Tim's here too.
Hi.
Give us the snake laugh.
What's the snake laugh?
that exactly was what the snake laugh was.
Nice.
Why do I have
Am I becoming
noises?
known for that? For my snake laugh?
Yes.
Am I known for a snake laugh?
No.
I didn't know I was known for a snake laugh.
Not you. Stop trying to take his credit.
Oh.
I do it sometimes.
I was once a man. And I approve this podcast.
Snake laugh. Similar to a fake laugh, which hides real pain. How are you
I don't know
guys?
how I started doing this. I used to laugh like Vega back in elementary school on purpose. It was pretty messed up and it freaked people out.
In typical Nethercast fashion, a bunch of tangents and nonsense.
That's why you love us. That's why we're here.
I don't love
All right.
you at all.
Well, give us a topic and we will be on it.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I don't know. It means you're the host.
All right, right off the bat, make sure you like us, subscribe, follow us, give us that 5-star rating. What else do the kids say these days? Follow us.
I meant give us directions,
Heart
not
us.
the listeners.
Heart us. Retweet.
Follow us on Instagram.
There you go. We're not on Instagram, not on Instagram, but you can follow us there anyway.
Use it for?
What happens in Twitch? What
I got that sweet Scorpion figure coming in the mail. That thing finally processed, so...
Anyways, let's get down to the real reason we're here, and that is Injustice. Okay, we got... Finally, we got some new info. A new trailer, some more characters revealed, at least announced, so to speak. We got a beta coming on the way. We got a leaked list. We got things to discuss here, folks. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty and not waste any more time with the who's and the ha's and the snake laughs. So, where do we start? Temp, you wanted to tackle the leak list?
Yeah.
Let's go over the leak list. Let's just start off hot.
Okay, well, I mean, I like the fact that the new characters, there's some brave choices on here. I mean, it's easier to talk about who's not on the list. Shazam's missing, and Blue Beetle, even though I'm super glad he's in the game, and I'm very grateful to NetherRealm for putting him in the game. He was very high on my list. He did look a little underwhelming from a gameplay standpoint. I was kind of hoping I could default to a Shazam, but this leak list may not even be true, and if it is true, it may only represent the mobile game. So I'm not too over-invested in this list, but it is a little disconcerting, though. And also, I'm always the one who's saying that Raven's going to be in every Injustice game ever, and guess who's not on the list? So I guess I got to eat my shoe on that if this ends up being true. Yeah, it's
leaving
interesting.
Raven out means they don't have to fix her face.
Oh man,
that was the easier call.
If she sounds like Raven from the series, they can make her face worse, and I will still be okay with it.
They're not gonna do. They don't know what we want.
Yeah, I know.
But on the subject of Shazam, I kind of called that one because
I know.
Died.
Yeah, but it's Shazam.
Well, here's the thing. Black Adam is on the list. Maybe he'll get some of Shazam's moves, and then Shazam will be an alt costume for him, like Power Girl and Jon Stewart.
God, that would be weird, though, because Shazam was a YOLO grappler, and Black Adam was a zoner with stupid dive kicks. So I don't know how they're going to... I mean, unless they're not using the legacy gameplay for those characters, but...
The thing is, Adam's gameplay was the way it was to make him different from Shazam. So he's this... I felt like in the first game he was unnecessary and weird. So maybe they can just give him most of Shazam stuff, get rid of all the weird shit he had. I don't know.
You know what? It's not very often that a game series will have a couple of adversarial characters, and then they'll drop the hero and retain the villain. That could make them... that has potential to make the roster look kind of fresh and interesting, when, point fact, it's all part and parcel of the way that DC actually fucking hates the character and has for fucking years. Every time you see Shazam, or, his actual name, Captain Marvel, before they, had problems with Marvel, every time you see that guy pop up in his own comic series, or like a video game or something, it's a pity move. They hate that character, and they always have. He's known for eating Superman's shit. Like him. They were like probably the only ones. Superman beats him like a redheaded stepchild on any number of occasions. DC don't like the character. Dan DiDio doesn't like the character. I'm pretty sure that's on record.
Well, I think they just have a hard time figuring out what to do with him because he's so similar to Superman. I mean, the only reason they own the character is because way back in like the 50s, he belonged to another company, and DC sued because he was too. They argued that he was too similar to Superman, and they won. And then they used the money to buy the fucking character. Just so he'd be off the board, I guess. But then they decided they wanted to use him in the 80s, and barely used him since. But he does keep showing up in, like, cartoons and stuff.
I'm not saying that they never use him. Maybe there's a clause that they actually have to keep using him every once in a while to retain the rights. Who the fuck knows? Legalese. I just don't actually believe that they enjoy having that character.
Well, the other thing is, like, he's supposedly one of Ed Boon's two favorites. Boon's favorites are supposed to be Shazam and the Flash, I'm pretty sure. Like, those are the characters he read as a child growing up or something.
That's why he actually made J1.
Yeah, and
MK vs. DC.
Yeah,
and we should probably read off the list just so anybody that doesn't know of the list knows who we're talking about and referring to. It's the Joker, Catwoman, Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, Dr. Fate, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Firestorm, Cyborg, Swamp Thing, Black Adam, Cheetah, and Captain Cold. And then whoever else that was, part of the announcement that's already been announced, I should say, is added onto that list. But the leak itself only had those characters that I just mentioned.
So despite being dead, the Joker and Green Arrow are back. Shazam and Lex Luthor are not back, and Catwoman and Cheetah are both on, but as separate characters. Mr. Freeze and Captain Cold are separate characters, and Swamp Thing is a separate character from Poison Ivy. So,
remember, being dead, comics, lol.
I mean,
also we can combine those six. I mean, Catwoman could be Cheetah. Mr. Freeze could be Captain Cold. I guess I'm thinking blow kisses and be Poison Ivy. I don't know how that would work.
Just drop that concept right off the bat. Just don't even bring it up anymore.
Well, my question is, like, if they are indeed separate characters, that's probably better because they should play different. But my question is, why even have Mr. Freeze?
Because he's awesome.
Is he that popular?
Oh yeah, he's a cool character.
You know what? I'm gonna go down this list right now. The Joker, yes, no-brainer. It was never not gonna happen. Catwoman. Sure, why not? Also, top-tier A-class Batman character. Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze. Two nice, great big cookies for the gigantic Batman fan base that they want to appeal to. Dr. Fate. Again, a nice nod to a character, kind of an underdog that a lot of people do seem to want. Green Arrow. Okay, not bad. Kind of a no-brainer again. I think he was pretty popular in IJ1. Yes, probably, yes.
He was... I didn't have a main, but he would have been the closest thing to it. I played him a lot.
Black Canary, she was also in Injustice 1, yes?
No, she didn't make it in, but she was, like, cutting room floor, like there was concept art of her.
Well, there you go. Bring back an unused concept. Wouldn't be the first time NetherRealm did that. Firestorm. I feel that, yes, Firestorm is that character that DC does seem to think that people care about and put him in things, and I swear to God, I could probably line my walls with canceled Firestorm miniseries. Cyborg. Character gaining a lot of traction these days. Good stuff. Swamp Thing. I'd like to believe it. I really want to believe it. I find it kind of believable, but that's the one that kind of makes me question this list a little bit. And Black Adam, Cheetah, Captain Cold. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Why not? I mean, Cold's probably virtually confirmed anyways at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair with the logo on the t-shirt. Same with Dr. Fate. But I mean, yeah. I don't think either's a guarantee, but yeah, I think their chances are good.
The roster, in a nutshell, the way it looks, I feel like there's just the right amount of believability and fan service in there to make that kind of convincing. I stress kind of. Wouldn't be surprised if I went one or the other. Cheetah is kind of like the standard like villain for Wonder Woman that you throw in because who really cares about Ares or any of other villains.
Yeah. I like Ares, but he wasn't great in the game. He was kind of boring.
Freddy was even in that first one. He's
granted. Well, I don't know. I'd take Ares over Cheetah. I don't know too much about Cheetah, but I'm not really sold on the concept.
Angry, godly guys running around wielding swords dressed in all Greek are 10 a fucking penny. At least Cheetah's unique, you know? That's all I'll say about that.
Sure, okay, I don't disagree with that. Even though I like Cyborg as a character, I like all the Teen Titans. I would have rather had another Teen Titan. I don't know. This list is weird.
The problem is Cyborg's not a Titan anymore. He has stolen Martian Manhunter's role as a founding member of the Justice League. And that's purely because they were trying to think of a black guy to put on the starting lineup, and he was the first name that popped into their fucking head.
Well, I've actually read the comics where Cyborg, fights Darkseid and, joins the Justice League and they find the cubes and I saw the cartoon that was based off of, that for some reason has Shazam in it now, instead of Aquaman. So, yeah.
You know what I'm saying about them liking Shazam more.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, I don't know what to believe. I'm not the biggest Beast Boy fan. I like Cyborg better than Beast Boy, but it would be nice to have Beast Boy. Starfire, I think, is a very interesting character. It would be nice to have her.
I like all of the Titans except Beast Boy. Something about him has always just really gotten on my nerves.
Smokeman says that as well. Smokeman really does not like Beast Boy.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to play Beast Boy. There's a lot of potential there for any given kind of play style.
I mean, DC has two or three other people who turn
rhinos and shit
who aren't annoying.
There's more annoying characters out there than Beast Boy. Maybe he's got a bit of a mouth on him, but Jesus. I find him entertaining, at least.
I don't know. Interesting. I guess this is not like I've been waiting 15 years for a character return. So I'm not too in the dumps about this. I will play whatever characters they give me, but Raven, it's weird playing a DC game without Raven. That is so weird to me.
I was surprised she made it into the first one.
Really?
I've never really known her to show up in a lot of video games. Then again, I think the last DC-based fighting game I played before Injustice and NKDC was what? The one on SNES? And hell, Cheetah was in that one.
The thing is, the audience that really, really got into Teen Titans doesn't seem to have any crossover with the people who are old enough to make stuff. The Titans always sort of get the shaft and things.
God, but she has a fan base, though, and they are rabid. They are a very rabid group of people.
Well, sure, but the people who make stuff aren't aware of that fan base or don't necessarily think it's their target audience.
There has to be, with conventions, Comic-Cons, I feel like there has to be some overlap. Something, because, even before I watched Teen Titans, I knew that fucking Raven was crazy popular. And the people who are developing, games in the industry are they're about my age, right? Maybe 5 years older?
The guys who make decisions are usually in their 50s and 60s. Ed Boon is in charge of the fucking roster, man.
Well, I think to an extent he is. I think he's partially responsible. I think Ed Boon has maybe 40% pull. Which, again, it's also weird Martian Manhunter's not on here. I think that's really strange as well.
There's a couple things that I find that stick out as strange, because there's several characters, there's at least 2 or 3 pairings that are essentially the same type of character. And sure, in Injustice 1, we had, you had Green Lantern and Sinestro, and you had Black Adam and Shazam, which were kind of similar concepts of the same type of character, but they executed them differently. It's a little odd to me to include both Mr. Freeze and Captain Cold, Cheetah and Catwoman, etc.
Maybe
it just
this
seems
is a bit of
a little odd. Superman, Supergirl, which I'm not saying they can't do them and do them differently enough to warrant their inclusions. It's just odd that we have 3 in Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy. That's what, 4 pairings that are kind of, parallels to each other. That's a little odd to me.
It does kind of make the list seem like a candidate for a crossbreed between people who are actually in the game and quote unquote premium skins.
Yeah, but if any of these are just skins, it would mean that the list is incomplete, which is weird for a leak.
I don't know.
I just don't
what,
believe
nine
it.
DLC characters planned already, apparently, confirmed out of the gate?
When did this list come out, by the way? Anybody know?
I actually don't. Smoke Man told me about it first, and then I saw it at Event Hubs eventually.
I think it leaked before the trailer.
Okay, because to me, I just don't think... I don't believe this. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I don't believe this list is accurate.
The way I heard it, the list had Poison Ivy, Brainiac, Robin, and Bane on it, and that's like why people believe it now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm just looking at what was posted in the chat, but
the only person on that list who's controversial is probably Bane. Like, I think all those were not. I don't want to say guarantees, but very good guesses. So
Bane's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, this is before the trailer, though, that this list apparently came out. I don't think anyone took it seriously until the trailer.
The list we're reading off of has the ones who were on the trailer not on it because we already know about them.
Fair enough.
I mean, I guess that adds more credence to the actual list if those characters were on it prior to being revealed. So, I mean, that does add to it. It's just, to me... I don't know, I have a hard time believing some characters that are left off the list aren't going to be in the game, such as like you said, Martian Manhunter seems like a shoo-in, or as Zatanna even seems like a shoo-in. Well, neither of them are in here, but then you have characters that I wouldn't think are going to making the cut here.
I was going to say, like, none of Injustice 1's DLC is on this list. Like, Batgirl is apparently not coming back. General Zod, like, I can understand Zod was only in there because it was a Man of Steel cash-in, and there are like elements of this list where it's like I can see that character is only in because they have like a TV show right now. Like, that's probably why we got Supergirl. That's probably why we're getting Firestorm, Captain Cold. That's probably why Green Arrow, even though he died, is back.
Time to see if there's a Swamp Thing movie coming out.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's still lacking certain names that you would expect to be in here. Like the Zatanna, if she was in, the DLC in the first one, why wouldn't she be on the starting roster in here? If they're going to adhere to don't make them DLC twice in a row, which they didn't in MKX, so they did stick to their word there, and they haven't said it about this game, but I would imagine that's that's an ideology that they're going to stick to. Why would she be left off this list if it just excludes her from DLC?
Would it be crazy to say she could be a premier costume for Dr. Fate, or is that... I don't know enough about Dr. Fate to really say one way or another.
Their magic is pretty different. Like, Dr. Fate does not pull shit out of a hat.
Yeah, she's very...
But what if he did?
Well, she's very stage magic. He's more sorcerer, what you expect. But to me, I just don't buy... I don't buy different genders being swaps like that. I think their models and their animations and the way they move and all of that, I think that's just too... Like, you can replace Hal Jordan with Jon Stewart and have it make sense. You can replace Flash with Reverse Flash, have it make sense. You can even do a Supergirl Power Girl swap and it makes sense. But I could even see like a Catwoman Cheetah swap, though what are you going to do with the whip? So that doesn't really make sense. But like Mr. Freeze, Captain Cold, you can kind of, but then again, the characters move very different. I imagine Mr. Freeze moving very stiffly, whereas Captain Cold's a little bit more, wily. I just have a hard time believing that they would do like a Poison Ivy Swamp Thing, or like a alternate attires for them, or however they want to call them, premier attires, especially for like a Fate Zatanna. They're just, their styles are completely different. The way they would stand and operate and move around would be completely different. I just don't see that happening. So I don't see those characters being left out of the initial roster. I mean, granted, Fujin was left out, and not to belabor that point, but obviously nobody's a given. Martian Manhunter was left out in Injustice 1 until DLC, so nothing is a guarantee, but I have a hard time believing he's left out of Injustice 1, all the outrage, he gets put in as DLC finally, and then he's left off the roster in the next game. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. And Zatanna's to a less extent, but still.
It makes sense to me because I know how NetherRealm thinks at this point. Martian Manhunter is not a character they wanted. He's a character the fans demanded. So when he was DLC in the first one, it was, here, fine, have him now. Shut the fuck up and go away.
But I thought they did want him in the game. I thought they wanted him in the game, and then Ed Boon or somebody got talked out of it at the last second.
I think sometimes they say diplomatic things to make us think that, to make us less mad at them.
Sure. I mean, that's fair.
Well, that may have been a Warner Brothers.
I think Martian Manhunter is the equivalent of a Rain or a Fujin, a guy we want that they don't want.
Well, and I hope to get blown up again if that's the case.
That's not just a problem with NetherRealm as developers. I think that goes all the way to DC's higher-ups, because Martian Manhunter has had shit for appearances since the New 52 reboot. Like, he barely exists now.
I don't know. I just think there's certain characters that I could easily pick out 3 characters on this list that I do not expect to be in the game. Not that it's completely impossible for them to make it, but I just don't expect them. And then I could pick 3 characters that were left off the list that I would be shocked if they don't make the initial roster. And just because we're here and we're talking about it, those 3 characters would be, I don't see Cheetah making the game. You have Catwoman in there. If she does make the cut, Cheetah, really? Cheetah, I have no problem with Cheetah. I just don't see what's going to be so unique about Cheetah.
If Cheetah doesn't make the game, then Wonder Woman doesn't have an archenemy in the game.
I'm okay with that.
There's others.
Cheetah, you're comparing Cheetah to Catwoman, where Catwoman is a character who would rely entirely on like her caltrops, her whips. No, have you played like the Justice League game on SNES or like seen any Cheetah's many appearances? That is the definition of a rush-down character.
Have you played Injustice 1 and Catwoman? Because that's what she is a rush-down, and she uses her claws quite a bit. It's not just whips and caltrops. She actually doesn't use caltrops, which I think would be cool if they do implement that after
the answer to that,
Aaron Black.
Cyborg, is actually no, because I thought Injustice 1 was a really shitty game.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying she is a rush-down character. She uses her claws quite a bit. That was her whole gimmick in the first one. The gimmick button that every character has was based on her claw attacks. So I have a hard time believing that Cheetah makes it. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like I said, it's certainly possible that Cheetah does make the roster. And to Razor's point, what other Wonder Woman villain would they add? How about Cersei? Or, I mean, Ares doesn't make...
characters absolutely no one gives a shit about.
But put in Ares...
That's the thing. Wonder Woman has, like, 3 worthy villains of major appearances. There's Ares, there's Cheetah, and there's Giganta. Giganta don't work for obvious reasons. Ares is boring as hell. Cheetah's like the only real villain she's got with personality.
They don't put a villain in for her. It's not like it's life or death whether each character gets a villain.
Wonder Woman, though. She's one of the pillars of their universe.
Okay, well then put Ares in. Ares is going to be... he's rumored to be the villain of her movie. Why not give him that promotion?
I think they're like, if I was a developer,
unless they make a
and I made a game, and you had a character like Ares in the first one, and it's like, well, people didn't really get excited for him. I'd be, let's try something else for the next one.
I don't know.
I would bring him back and the other thing is, like, Cheetah has super speed, so she's not just fucking Catwoman.
I understand that. I'm comparing her. I'm not saying she's the exact same. Hell, if they can make Black Adam and Shazam different, they can make the different Lanterns different. I have full faith they can make Cheetah and Catwoman different. I'm not saying they're the same damn character. I'm just saying I think there's other choices that could be made to where I don't think Cheetah is that top spot. Yes, Cheetah is probably her greatest rival. When you think of Wonder Woman, you automatically think of Cheetah. You don't think of Ares, in my opinion. But with that said, the way the first game went, not every character got a villain. I just don't see why Cheetah warrants that spot here. That's just my opinion.
Well, just to throw something in here, the list could be completely true. Excuse me, and not reflect the roster. Oh, damn.
It could be completely true.
Your body is projecting the lies you're telling.
Okay.
But however,
you know what kind of makes me believe it? Swamp Thing kind of makes me believe it. Because I feel like there's this scenario where DC every like once a year and a half goes, have we told Alan Moore himself yet? All right, here's another one of your beloved works. Yes, I know that he didn't actually create the character, but he's responsible for his definitive run in a mass popularity product or what have you. Just like the Watchmen. Watchmen, there's an idea. Oh man.
Well,
no, I think it's almost a guarantee at this point.
Yeah. Watchmen was on a poll that Ed Boon put out, and it was pretty favorably voted on.
Oh, he's never going to be Alan's friend.
That's fine.
Well,
you know what, Alan?
I don't think anyone cares. I don't think anyone cares.
I've seen enough Alan Moore to know that's not a man who likes making friends.
This is true.
Okay,
it's kind of like a scraggly, burned out Rob Zombie hermit thing.
Let's not discount that this list is very safe in the sense that it is offering a lot of fan favorites that were requested after Injustice 1. So it's not like this is a list that's featuring so many oddball characters that you never believe it's real. I think it's possible that it's real. I just don't believe that this is the... I think some of the characters on the list certainly will make the game. I just don't think it's as cut and dry. Like, every character on this list will be in the game, and any character left off the list won't be in the game. I just don't see it that way.
Well, I think it's just for the mobile app, and we're looking too far into it. I think that's what's going on.
Did they?
Yeah, the leak is apparently from the mobile app. It's just that people are assuming that the mobile will get the characters that are in the game before they get anybody. Like the Injustice 1 mobile game got the game's roster before it ever got Darkseid or Static.
Sure.
So the assumption is if these guys are in the mobile app, it probably means they're in the game. But that's not necessarily true.
All right, well, let's talk about Mr. Freeze versus Captain Cold. What are your guys' thoughts on that? We know Captain Cold has a good chance. Do you really think Mr. Freeze makes the game? I have no problem with Mr. Freeze making the game. You're talking to probably out of all of us the biggest Batman biased person here, so I would take any of his villains for the most part, and Mr. Freeze
I don't know, man.
is
Back
one of
when
my
I cared
favorites.
more about the comics. If this game was coming out like 8-9 years ago, I'd be squealing like a little girl at the prospect of playing Mr. Freeze in a fighting game, let alone any of Batman's villains. I've just become jaded with the whole New 52 shit.
Yeah, they're moving away from that, though. But yeah, I get you.
I can't... Honestly, at this point in time, between the two characters, Captain Cold to me does make a hell of a lot more sense. He's got a show... Like, Flash has got a show that's doing kind of... I assume it's still doing pretty well. I keep hearing... I mean, it keeps getting renewed, and people keep talking about it.
As far as I know, The Flash is still the most popular of all the CW superhero shows, but all of them are they're doing good for CW in the ratings.
Oh, fair enough. So, I mean, get a character that people are getting to know and getting familiar with and tossing him out there and keeping him alive and fresh, and compare and contrast that to a character who, despite a lot of good appearances in many cartoons since, is still probably remembered by a lot of the casual public as Arnold. So, I don't know. That does kind of make me turn my head. It probably is time for a Mr. Freeze revival, but it just makes more sense for me to look at.
Well, he did have a really good showing in Arkham City. I thought he did at least, and that's a lot of the people who played Arkham City are
best boss fight in
the
whole fucking game, easy.
And I think he's in the current Batman comics. I think he's the main villain in the current Batman comics. Just recently, they had a big arc with Two-Face, and now they're moving on to Mr. Freeze. I think Mr. Freeze, he is one of the higher requested characters of the bunch. Coming out of Injustice 1, I know there's a lot of people that request a Mr. Freeze. I don't know where he ranks him. I'm not saying he's like in top 5 most requested characters, but in terms of overall, if you take every character that was requested, obviously I think Mr. Freeze breaks the top 20 there in terms of requested characters. So it's not really a shock to see him amongst this list. I'm just saying I want to know your guys' feelings of him being included along with Captain Cold. Do you think it's warranted? And do you think Mr. Freeze, if they get... So we're getting Bane, we're getting Ivy, we're getting Scarecrow, we're getting Mr. Freeze. Do you feel like Mr. Freeze is a fair person to include in there above other Batman villains that are left in there? Because there's not a whole lot of other Batman villains that make sense to put in a fighting game when you think about it. I mean, Clayface maybe, but you're not going to put...
God, yes.
Raish would be kind of neat. But yeah, I don't see many other Batman. You're not going to put Two-Face, I don't think, in there. even though that'd be
fucking
cool.
really grinds.
But,
I mean, Talia was my choice, but I wouldn't call her a villain. Or maybe you could. I don't think
she's
you'd
like
want
neutral.
Sometimes.
She's like neutral, kind of like Catwoman.
depends.
You know what the funny thing is? You could
depends on the
fucking put
writer.
Penguin. You could put Penguin in one of these fucking games, man. Dude does martial arts and he works out. He's got so many trick umbrellas, but
Yeah, no, that's fair.
the public perception of him as a crime boss, but he's got more chance than fucking Two-Face ever will have, unfortunately.
That's yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of people, speaking of Batman villains and the whole argument, these guys don't make good fighting game characters. I disagree with that wholeheartedly because if you actually research these characters, they actually do know martial arts. Most of them, they're not known to use them. But I mean, Two-Face has trained with Batman in combat, hand-to-hand combat.
He has,
so
but
it's
just
not.
that
I don't know.
Two-Face is one of those characters that, like, any given character archetype in a fighting game could do what he can do, but better, There's just so many better choices to have in a game rather than Two-Face coin, or apart from, like, maybe coin gimmicks like Johnny a la Guilty Gear, but...
It's a coin toss for me, no pun intended, but it's agree.
See what you did there?
It's agree and disagree because I think Two-Face has a certain style to him and a certain cool factor that you don't get with, random character X and Y that can do what he does. Yeah, he's just another character with fighting and guns, but a personality that would definitely be fun in a fighting game.
I agree with that, and I'm not saying that he should never show up. I'm just saying I don't think his chances are ever going to be great.
No, I agree with you there. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess if your question is Captain Cold or Captain Cold or Mr. Freeze, it's funny. Mr. Freeze actually is my favorite Batman villain. However, I would pick Captain Cold just because of the lead up in the bait and switch they did with the first Injustice. I thought was really dirty, and I really don't like it when they do shit like that. So I feel like it's time to, pay the piper. Let's put Captain Cold in a fighting game now. Because of all... I mean, that was so dumb. Making Flash dodge icicle shots.
Yeah.
And then not put Captain Cold.
Yeah.
I hate shit like that. Like, I mean, I'm sure our fans know that by now. But I really don't like misleading the fans for no reason. I really don't like that shit. So I would pick Captain Cold just on those merits. And even though I like Mr. Freeze, the things I like about him do not translate into a fighting game. Like him missing his dead wife doesn't really translate into a fighting game. So yeah, let's
outro pose. Outro pose would be pretty sweet if he just pulls out the little snow globe thing. I don't know.
I don't know if it ever got recorded, but me and Django were joking about that during one of our top 7 videos. We were talking about Sad Stance, where he busts out the Nora globe, and that's exactly what
I'm pretty sure that was in one of the videos.
I would like...
You know what, though? Like, after, the New 52 after the New 52 reboot, I don't know what they're doing now. Apparently they're going back to the way things used to be, but I haven't looked into it. But, in the New 52, Nora was a girl he stalked who he thought was his wife, but they were never actually married. And I think he actually killed her in Frozer himself.
Who gives a fuck about the New 52?
That was one of 38 reasons I dropped DC.
That makes me sad. I don't like that at all.
Look. Here's the thing. Just fucking don't worry about what the New 52 does because you're talking about the last, 6 years, 7 years versus 70 years or 50 years or however long fucking Two-Face was around. Who gives a shit? Just like him for what he is. Technically, the version we like most wasn't really brought till the 90s, but still.
Just that
true.
Either way, I'm just saying you can't... You can still love the character, just don't like what they do with him recently. I think he's a fun character, and I would love to see Mr. Freeze. But I agree with you, Temp, that Captain Cold, if I had to choose between the two, I'd definitely take Mr. Freeze, because Batman. But the thing is, I agree with you that it was a tease.
Start the chance for another one created strictly Batman fighting game now.
No, I don't.
I think it's going to happen eventually.
I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's needed, and I don't even necessarily want that. If I want a Batman game, I'd take another Arkham game over anything. I don't need a fighting game to do that. I'm just saying it is cool to have representation in here of some of my favorite characters, and obviously a lot of my favorite characters happen to be Batman villains. Regardless, I agree with you, Temp, that Captain Cold does deserve the nod. With that said, I'm interested to see how they implement them both, if they actually do implement them both. I still expect Mr. Freeze to be more slower and methodical with how he goes about his powers, whereas Captain Cold is a bit more quick-paced and wily and crazy.
Yeah, he does remind me a lot of Iceman from the first Mega Man game. So, in terms of design, I actually prefer the Eskimo vibe I get from Captain Cold.
Sure.
That actually does appeal to me a lot more. I don't know if I'd want the tank-like gameplay of Mr. Freeze as much. Yeah. We can do another comparison if you want, because for me this is a lot of fun. But did you guys want to go one by one through the 5 revealed characters as well, or do y'all want to
we can do
kind
that.
of stick to
I
this
assume
route?
that's the plan.
Sure.
I'll also note that you're now making me picture Captain Cole with fucking gigantic googly robot master eyes rather than his purple shades. Characters ruined. But let's continue.
So
Anyways.
I'll let y'all steer the boat here.
Okay, well, if you want to leave the leak list, because I don't know if there's much else to talk about. We kind of covered the more demanded characters there and characters that are interesting to discuss.
Well, there's one. I do want to talk about Scarecrow.
Yeah, Scarecrow.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, Scarecrow was the one that was interesting to me, because of all the names on this list, like, you were talking about how people don't really think of Batman characters as fighters.
That's a pretty good example, right?
Like,
there, man.
Right, yeah.
I don't see Jonathan Crane throwing punches and kicks too often.
But man, is he going to be awesome to play.
I shit you not. This is a thing that they brought up back in, like, Nightfall. He has practiced Crane-style martial arts.
Jonathan Crane.
I'm not kidding. Go look it up. Jonathan Crane knows Crane style.
Of course he does. Speaking of silly comic things, when you guys were talking about the Mr. Freeze win pose, instead of them like pulling out a snow globe and staring at it, what I want to see is, you know how in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, Doctor Doom's like floating throne comes out of nowhere and he sits in it?
Yeah.
Like, I want when Mr. Freeze wins a match, fucking the cryo tube with Nora in it rises out of the ground.
I thought you were gonna say you wish like a globe, like a big bowl comes out over him, and then snow starts going down like he's in a snow globe.
You know what he should actually fucking do? He should like take the cold gun and like spray the body, like raising up a little bit, and have the body of his opponent encased in his own ice throne, which he sits down on.
That'd be kind of cool, yeah. But yeah, moving back.
And then Nora's cryo tube rises up.
Yes, combine all of the ideas. Going back to Scarecrow, though, he's made my list, and he's somebody that was requested definitely by multiple people coming out of Injustice 1 as a character that, yeah, he may not be directly associated with fighting when you think about him, but the possibilities and the potential with this character in terms of just mind games and fuckery with life bars and just messing with your opponent. I'm thinking stuff like when you spray fear gas, you turn him into like a zombie that, you know, all of a sudden bugs are... I don't know. There's so many things you could do with him that just sound like a lot of fun to play.
It's easy to like consider the character and then like look back to like the Arkham games for all the inspiration and all that fuckery that they pulled off with like middle sticks and your game and your consoles crash like real Eternal Darkness style shit.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna
somewhere in there there's a fine balance between what the fighting game community would consider like acceptable gameplay wise.
Yeah, because I really want like Eternal Darkness shit, but the fucking Evo crowd would ban that character immediately from tournament scenes.
Well, think about this. Think about this.
Like, it's a hard line to walk. Like, you can't have a fucking beach stage with like a meter of like a half a foot of running water because it fucks with footsie games.
Think about this.
It's a tricky line. I think it can be done, but it'd be a lot of fucking work.
Jason.
Well, I think if it's specific to a character, it'd be fine.
Jason and MKX, that stupid fucking thing that he does, it's so annoying that just fucks with your controls. That's what Scarecrow could do. Yeah, if you get sprayed with fear gas, all of a sudden your up is like B for some reason. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I'm actually still amazed that that's totally legal. I'm impressed.
So it was very well received. People liked it. I don't want to see too much more of that, but we thought that was cool. I don't know why I keep saying we like I'm part of some exclusive club. People thought that was cool. So yeah.
But yeah, that's what I imagine with Scarecrow. I imagine weird tricks and tactics like reversing your person's buttons, maybe different moves reverse different buttons and change it up, and then you could have screen effects. You could do all sorts of weird little creepy things that I think would be a ton of fun. You could give them a scythe if you want to give them a weapon to give them more range. I don't know. There's ideas there.
You know, it'd be really fucking filthy. Make them think they have a full super bar when they don't.
Oh my god!
Make that like a fucking level 3
Why isn't it happening?
Honestly,
or just like, go ahead.
Have no animation for it. Just like have him like maybe suddenly snap his fingers or some shit, and he's like, "Oh, I got a bar meter." Fuck.
Dude, that would be badass. You don't know how much meter you have or how much meter you're building. That would be sick.
Or you could do like fake out teleports where you do like a button combo and it makes it look like you teleport in front of them, but you just like in a blink it just flashes back to where you actually are. I don't know, you could do all sorts of weird little mind games like that that are actually well implemented. And that's why the character is so much fun, is it's not like another character that they're doing. So, he just it works. It makes him stand out and he's unique. And more than anything, he would just be a fun character, I think, to watch to those that can actually learn to play him.
I'm going to say this right now. You best give me a fucking Sinestro Core Scarecrow costume.
That would be cool.
I will pay money for that shit. That's got to happen.
That would be cool.
You know the moment in Batman Begins where he's like riding a horse and everybody's like under fear gas, so they think the horse is breathing fire, and he looks like the headless horseman.
Yeah.
I'd like a move where he summons the horse.
There you go. Maybe he rides in on it.
Like he calls in the assist.
It was a load
But
of
if you don't activate the gas, it's just a horse. So.
And the horse has like a stapled shotgun to it.
During his wind pose, if you hold low kick, Batman tases him from off screen and he runs off.
Well, I was actually going to pitch what I would do with Scarecrow was kind of what they did with Sun God Kotal Khan, where he has a command grab where he does the syringes on you.
Yeah.
And then every time he does it, he gets more powerful and gets new properties. So if you get 3 command grabs, Scarecrow is like 50 feet tall, and you now can only hit his head like the top of the screen with a jump kick. Like, that would be cool. Like, that would be awesome to me.
And every character is going to have gimmick again, so a button dedicated to some sort of special little thing that happens. So I could definitely see some fun things with Scarecrow. I mean, Bane's was really neat, how they worked in his Venom. So I would imagine something with Scarecrow could be definitely a lot of fun. So that's why, if there's anything to take away from this list is, other than the few exclusions that I hope make the roster, I think this list is a lot of fun. There's a lot to love about this list because there are a lot of characters that people have been asking for. So, I mean, you get your Swamp Things, you get your Dr. Fates, you get your Captain Cold, and then you do have some people asking for Scarecrow and Mr. Freeze. So I think there's some fun to be had there. So, if anything, I would love for Scarecrow to make the game, whether he's DLC or on the main roster or whatever the case.
Yeah, the list isn't bad. It kind of hits me where I'm vulnerable, unfortunately. It kind of hit my 2-3 favorite characters, so yeah. That's kind of what bothers me about it. The list itself isn't awful by any means.
All right.
I think it's weird that Sinestro's not coming back.
God, that's what I was talking. Like, Sinestro was my secondary, and fucking. Anyway.
Well, I mean, it ain't that strange. New game, new core, red kidney bean for a head. That's where we are now.
Yeah, but I'm looking for more lanterns, not trading one for another.
Sure.
Maybe you'll get Saint Walker?
Yeah, I would expect maybe a lantern comes through DLC. I would love a Saint Walker or an Indigo or something would be neat.
Black Hand.
As we discussed for potential villains, yeah.
Yeah, he could basically be MVC2 Jill.
Yeah, you could do that, or he could pop out maybe
all
different
the fun
characters.
They could fucking have with like randomly generated corpse skins.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
That's what I'm thinking. Is he rises up like a corpse from the ground that might be like a dead Superman, and he uses like a Superman like power using that character. I think that'd be kind of neat.
If they could just pick various characters from DC's history who are famous for having been killed off, and people go, "What the fuck continuity is this?" Blah.
Maybe that's one for Injustice 3. We get a few more of this roster dead, and then in 3, Black Hand has the ability to summon Lex and Shazam and all the guys who died in story mode.
There's your Captain Marvel. He is now a projectile.
I was just gonna throw in. It looks like I'm looking at the roster. I mean, I don't want to treat this as official by any means, but it looks like almost none of the S tiers came back, with the exception of Aquaman. Pretty much all the really heavy hitter characters competitively aren't on the list. Batgirl gone, Zod gone. I mean, those two make sense, but fucking Martian Manhunter. God, he was a heavy hitter. God, who else? Sinestro. He was definitely top 5. He's kind of. I would say he's kind of like what Jason is in MKX, where at the last minute he just got really fucking powerful because we found a vortex with him. So that's interesting.
I'm glad to hear that because he seemed so useless when he first came out, and I tried him.
Yeah, there was a lot of crying And I don't know if he had the Vortex when the game first came out, but he definitely had it after the final patch. So he was very, very good, very powerful. And once he got his trade out, God, that character was ridiculous, and I loved it. I'm going to miss him so much.
Well, everybody gets Caballed.
Yeah, no, it's I sometimes wish they didn't, but I know you're right though. But which new character did y'all want to do first?
I guess we could go chronological order from when they were in the trailer, which
starts
would mean
with
Robin.
Yeah. Do it. Let's Robin it up. Robin. I mean, without Django, can't really say a whole lot, but
yeah, we're.
I like Robin. I think that's cool. Damien. I guess that makes the most sense to have him be the one that's playing Robin, even though it doesn't really line up there. But it fits. It's cool that they're having a Robin in the game since they had Nightwing last time. Makes sense to have a Robin this time. Yeah. That wraps up my thoughts about Robin.
I think
there's a lot of ins, lots of outs.
Yeah. Robin gets kind of a shitty raw deal as a character, and that's changing more and more as time goes by. Sure. It was kind of like that 80s, 90s period where it was like the entire notion of the character was kind of embarrassing, which is kind of why we have Nightwing. And I'm glad that we finally seem to be reaching a point where we're past that and he's showing up in more media. Because, I mean, as a kid, he was one of my absolute favorite characters, you know?
Well, we're past that immature phase where it's like, oh, that character's lame, he looks stupid, and even being like, that character is quote-unquote gay. Like, we've moved past that with Aquaman. Robin's the same way.
I'm glad for it.
Yeah, I am too. I think that was just a really dumb mentality to have. We're past that. It's almost like when you go through childhood and adolescence and teenager and all that stuff, you go through that phase where you're like, the things you liked as a child, you're like, no, that's stupid, that's lame. But then you come back to your adulthood and you're like, no, that stuff's actually pretty cool. I mean, more adults play Pokemon than fucking kids do these days. So, I mean, there's a sense of...
The last vestiges of that, though, they're still kind of fading out. Like, up until through at least, like, the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, everyone was like, is this guy going to become Robin? And other people like, no, Robin's too stupid for such a mature series of films.
I think Robin suffers from, like, a multitude of things that sort of bother people. Like, there's the concept of, like, the Bachelor adopting a young boy.
Nothing wrong with that.
As opposed, I mean, it's something that people read into stuff that's not there because they're weird.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate, but it does exist. And then there's the fact that for decades and decades, his costume was a pair of fucking briefs and nothing on his goddamn legs.
Which I hope is an alternate costume, because I like the classic costume, really. It's his fucking acrobat costume.
And the elf booties, too. Like.
So what?
Those are a thing of the past for the 1980s, and you know what? Like Bowie's Jareth costume, they are nothing to be ashamed of.
You embrace it, yeah. You gotta embrace it.
I'm just saying that's it. Other characters sort of grew up faster than Robin did in the public consciousness.
Sure.
He's still catching up to, like, darker and edgier shit that comics have become.
He had that problem because who was arguably more iconic as a kid's sidekick for so very, very many years?
Yeah.
You know? It's tough for companies to take that step and fuck with what ain't arguably broken until they're presented with hard evidence that it actually is. And it took, like, the fucking mid-90s to finally get us there. But anyways, I'm digressing. Like, the whole point is...
The third thing is that there's a perception of Batman as a character who should be a loner. Like, people don't like him with sidekicks in general, and that's unfortunate.
I think there's both...
I like all of the Bat family. Like, I really like... I've said before, I miss Cassandra Cain as Batgirl. I really like Robin and Nightwing. I like Huntress. The whole group, I think, is better than a Gotham that just has Batman alone.
I think there's room for both, and I like both styles. I like to see Batman by himself in, like, the Long Halloween. Like, I think that works. And then there's other ones where you add in the Bat family, and it works that way, too. It's just there's no reason you can't have... With the millions of comics they come out with each year, it seems like there's no reason why you can't have Batman by himself in these series and Batman with his family in these series. Like,
I'm just saying, like, there's an audience that has to have everything their way, and it's like, I don't want movie Batman to ever get a sidekick because my Batman is the Batman that doesn't have sidekicks. And it's like, your Batman existed for 1 year ever. Shut the fuck up.
Point in fact, that's the entire reason that Tim Drake is a character and that we know him as Robin for any reason whatsoever. The whole thing, like following Jason Todd's death, was he was gradually kind of going more and more over the edge, being a bit more brutal in his treatment of criminals and especially the Joker and whatnot. So the case was made that Batman kind of needs a family to keep him sane and grounded. Maybe not. Maybe I know a lot of people aren't fans of the whole Batman is secretly crazy theory, but there's aspects to it that I can find believable, and I can buy that. That
he's not. I wouldn't say he is crazy. I would say he's constantly on the edge, and that loneliness is a motherfucker. So yeah, that guy needs support.
There you go.
Everybody needs a shoulder to lean on sometimes.
Everybody hurts.
Temp, you got anything for Robin?
I will say, yeah, you guys said it. I mean, the only thing I'd really add is I didn't really get into Robin until I started watching the Teen Titans. So I guess Dick Grayson is my favorite Robin, but I really like the tragedy of Jason Todd. Jason Todd is a character I do like quite a bit, but the loss and the horror of what happened to Jason Todd and discovery, just the really tragic discovery of what became of him, that really interests me on a literary level and a personal level too. I think we've all had.
Thank you, thank you. You're like welcome. Jason coming back was the whole reason I got back into reading comics in 2005. Death in the Family was like one of the first batches and handfuls of Batman comics I'd ever read as a kid. And like prior to the '89 film, thereabouts, my exposure to like Batman was a couple of comics, this included, and like Batman 66. I think that 66 was like my first actual exposure to Batman ever. And then I started reading some of these comics, and I'm like, why is Robin so different here? Oh, and that's the thing that got me about Jason Robin as a kid, was like he didn't seem like such a silly, ridiculous goody two-shoes. That's, I couldn't really tell campy acting from serious acting. But, Jason in the comics was kind of angry. He wanted to punish bad guys. He had problems. As a kid, I found him more realistic than like 66 era Burt Ward's Robin. And so they killed him, and that really, really fucked me up a little while until Tim came back and everything was pretty much okay again. But I always missed Jason. So when they finally brought him back, I was kissing Judd Winnick's ass online. Everyone was like, how dare they bring back that fucking whiny brat back? I'm like, no, they did it in a believable fashion, minus the whole stupid Superboy Prime Universe punch. Long story, folks. And I was beyond fucking thrilled when the animated version of that came out, and it fucking fixed those problems by having Raz be the guy that brought him back. And look at him now, man. Full fucking front page coverage in Arkham Knight, the video game. Everyone knows who he is now. He's got fucking legions of Tumblr fanboys and fangirls, and I could not be fucking happier. But he always, from this point on, needs to be Red Hood. He's got his own identity, and for that I'm immensely fucking grateful. And yes, he's a fucking shoo-in for DLC. It's going to happen.
If he's not on the main roster, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to Robin before we move on?
Just, no, I think you guys covered it. I mean, I don't really have a lot to say other than Red Hood's my favorite Batman product ever made. Like, I love that movie. I could watch it in loops. I love it.
Under the Red Hood that's fantastic. I've seen that several times. Own it. It's good stuff.
It's definitely one of the best DC animated movies in general.
Like, I cannot put into words what I felt when I picked up those first couple of issues, and everyone was talking. It's like what was known was like this Red Hood guy was someone from Bats' past who came back, and this is like pre-Bucky coming back as Winter Soldier too. It was around the same couple of months time frame.
Yeah,
we were still harboring the delusion that absolutely that like the two out of three sacred cows, or maybe four, arguably with the Waynes. The Waynes, Uncle Ben, Bucky, and Jason Todd. As far as the comic community was concerned, none of them were coming back. And you hit that page where, like, Joker's looking up at him. It's like, and he pulls out the crowbar, and that's the end of like one page, and you're like, son of a fucking bitch, they didn't. And then it's just 2 straight pages of the crowbar going up and down into the Joker's face, and it was masterfully executed until that very last page where you turn, like where he takes the helmet off and you see it's him. Those are very possibly 4 of my favorite pages in all of literature. It was so well done.
All right. I mean, can't top that. Let's move on to who was next? Bane? All right. Yeah. So Bane coming back. Temp, why don't you lead us off on this one?
I'm just really happy to do command throws. I want to Venom up, and I want to do command throws. And on Wake Up, I want to use a bar meter so I can do another command throw.
Yeah, I said this before when we the trailer in a previous video. Of all the command grab characters who were in the first one, Bane is the one that I'm glad they brought back.
I'm so excited. I'm very excited. Like, honestly, it's so exciting.
His mix of the buff and the Lucha Libre, it's all... I really enjoyed his play style in the first one.
Why don't you play Bane?
Yeah. Cyborg brings up a very good question here. It's kind of the Reptile problem. Reptile is my secondary in MKX. I just can't get over how... Like, for Reptile, I can't get over how gross and ugly and dirty the character is. Bane is kind of a big hulking asshole. Like that's kind of his shtick. So it's really hard to get invested into the artistic side. And that's what a fighting game is to me. It's a marriage between art and skill. That is why I love fighting games above all gaming genres. So it's like, oh god, this is so fun. I love doing this. Oh man, command throw, on Oki. Oh, I'm having a blast. But once that win pose happens, you're like, oh, I'm just playing a big dumbass.
How about this?
Batman.
How about this proposal? What if they give him
brains?
What if they give him an alternate attire where it's him in like a nice tuxedo suit looking thing with his luchador mask? Would you like that more?
I could dig.
He's worn
right, by the way.
No, I know he's worn suits.
Shit like that.
Yeah, I know he's worn suits. I'm being serious. Like, what if they actually include something like that? Would that change your mind about his appearance?
It would edge me more that direction. I think it would, I don't know. It's just his motivations at the end of the day aren't terribly interesting to me. And he's a big hulking asshole in essence. Yeah, what's up?
In the first game, his one alternate costume, the purple singlet.
Yeah. Well, this time we are getting gear, so you'll have probably plenty of options with
you'll
it.
You'll have 20 ways to put armor on him.
Yeah,
if any of you, because they're gonna do it. If any of you motherfuckers pick like a Batman animated series like Gimp choker collar with like the open lips, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. I don't know how the fuck Batman the animated series did everything right except for that one thing.
Well, here's the thing about
what were you thinking? Honestly,
it's true.
Didn't like anything from the 90s. So his conception of Bane was dumb steroid guy, and then he put him in BDSM gear just to make him look edgier. And then because he didn't use Doomsday right in the Justice League cartoon either. So he's just like any like character who was created in the 90s, he kind of shat on.
Yeah.
God almighty.
I'm really excited. I'm really glad he made it. I think just him making it back more than anything else feels like a victory to me. Because I really didn't think he was going to have a chance. I thought kind of like he is what I feel like the way Shazam is right now is the way I thought Bane was. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to come back either. Not because I didn't think he was popular enough. I just thought he'd be one of those, like, there's several Batman villains that I could imagine making the cut throughout the years of these as the series continues. I figured Bane would be one that would be cycled out. I didn't expect him to be one that's like, oh yeah, he's coming back. I don't know.
I
could makes sense.
Just as easily see it as I could not see it. But if you told me one of these guys is going to come back, Solomon Grundy or Bane, I would have gone with Grundy. Because I figured that they would just keep on. I figured that they would just keep on rotating Batman villains around, but keep someone recognizable as a major Justice League villain. But yeah, not surprised it worked out this way either. I just would have said Grundy. I'd have had to take a guess out of one of the two.
Yeah, Grundy has that unique quality that he is because a lot of people think he's a Batman villain, and that's not necessarily the case. Just because he showed up in Arkham City, I think fooled a lot of people. But no, he started off as a Green Lantern villain way back then, but he's a Justice League villain. He's a Legion of Doom member mainly, you know.
He's like Deadshot. He's frequently associated with Batman, but he's not part of his rogues gallery, strictly speaking.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't think he's coming back, and it's not just because of this list. I didn't expect Grundy to be back because I figured he was more a sign of that time, you know, Arkham City and all that. He had a showing. He was a Justice League villain, and it just made sense. But I don't see him as a lock by any means going from game to game.
Nah, neither do I really. But I would have given him money over Bane. Say again.
I would have called it a 50-50 either way. I mean, I'm glad Bane's back, but I also could have seen him being cycled out because you could make the argument that the only reason he got into the first one is because it came out around the same time as Dark Knight Rises.
Sure, and I thought that was fair too. I honestly think I'm a little shocked Killer Croc. If he's not in the game, I would be surprised on that due to the obvious tie-in with Suicide Squad. But I mean, Killer Croc is another out of the Batman villains that remain, I think Killer Croc and Clayface would make really fun characters as well. I mean, they just would be Clayface especially visually interesting, but Croc's, the way Croc could do like crawling on the ground, kind of like Reptile and stuff like that, would be really interesting. I don't know.
I love Clayface. Croc would be weird to put all of Reptile's like fast, slithery moves on a big, heavy tank. It would be kind of awkward.
That's the thing. Croc was, according to some continuities, a professional wrestler or brawler before he embarked on his life of crime. Croc would totally be a. I could actually, you know what? You tell me Killer Croc, you know what I think of, and you're not gonna like this. I'm thinking of stupid chain command grabs like King or like Jax's horrible bullshit. That's what I think of when you tell me Killer Croc.
That could be cool. I think that would be actually very workable.
I think it would be cool because I mean it's almost like he could gator grab him and then do gator rolls, like death rolls on the ground and stuff like. I don't know. I see some fun little gatory things out of him. Crocodile things, whatever.
Well, I was just gonna say that it's. I guess going back to Bane, it's a happy little accident in history that I even played the character because around the time Injustice came out, I believe was close-ish to The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. And my friend wanted to learn Bane because he was such a big fan of the movie. And so I picked him up because he wasn't really a big fighting gamer. And I just fell in love with the character's gameplay. So I'm so glad that if that had never happened, I probably would have been hoping he was gone. I probably would have been really disappointed he came back. But thankfully, there's a lot of characters I never really got to mess with, unfortunately. So this is a happy little surprise for me.
It's just a happy little tree. All right, anything else to say about Bane? Yeah. All right, well, he was more widely and, positively accepted than I would have figured. Well, let's move on to Ivy. I'll lead off on Ivy because I'm pretty excited for her. Honestly, right now, she's the character I'm most excited about. That's actually been confirmed. I'm really cautiously hesitant, optimistic, whatever you want to call it, about her gameplay and what her style is, because I'm not sure. Is she going to be fast? Is she going to be agile? Usually feminine characters are fast and agile like that, especially with her stature and her frame. But I don't know how they're going to incorporate her moveset, especially. I see a lot of vines and like long range whipping and all that fun stuff.
That's the thing of it. If you had to I'd basically call her some sort of weird, wacky version of Dalsim that can't teleport. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what I'm picturing.
I'm so far what I've gathered is I think of like
what she can teleport.
What I thought, like I think of like what Grundy had and even Scorpion had in MKX, where basically I envision vines coming out of the ground and trapping the opponent, like setting up for a free hit. I envision vines coming off of her, like her attire, and whipping the opponent, like with almost like Sindel's hair whip, and I could imagine grabs and slams using said vines. So she's going to be, I would imagine she's going to be more like a mid-range character. And if that's the case, she sounds like if they incorporate it well and they execute it well, I think she could be a lot of fun. I'm hesitant about it. But and you could also do something with her pheromone seduction, some toxic skin action. I don't know. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with it. I'm just not sure how they're going to execute it, and I'm out of every character going into, the next reveal of how they actually play, Ivy's the one that I'm the most intrigued by, and just my favorite character so far in the game, in that, I'm looking forward to, I should say.
She makes them think they have a super bar, but it's actually
Scarecrow.
A massive erection.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm thinking more Glacius from Killer Instinct. That's what comes to mind when I think Poison Ivy gameplay.
I was sort of thinking not necessarily Glacius, but Conra.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I was also in our previous video about the trailer. I think I compared her. I imagine how she'll play to Devora, because like instead of the claws coming out of the back for long range, it'll be like vine whips, and instead of like squeezing bugs to shoot juice at you or having the swarm come out of the ground to like pop you into the air, she could do that with like
flowers and vines,
and like pollen and shit.
You could do like maybe a Venus flytrap. I don't know. There's several little interesting things. I just think visually she's going to be probably pretty cool to look at and seen played. I'm cautious because not every character fits the style that I want to play, and she's by no means a guarantee. It's kind of like Fate. If Fate makes the game, that's awesome. I've been pulling for them since the first one, of course, but at the same time, I don't necessarily see myself playing Fate, because Fate to me sounds like a very tricky character, especially the way they represented Zatanna in Injustice 1 was very tricky. Poison Ivy, I'm hoping, isn't too tricky like that. I don't want like trap setups or anything like that. I want a very straightforward mid to close range battler or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see, but I'm looking forward to her. Thoughts? Opinions?
Well, I do want to say I would like, if we assume the leak list is true, there's only about 6 females in the game. If we assume it's not true, then so far we have 3 confirmed females, so it would be nice if we had some more females on the roster who aren't just premier costumes,
Sure. I would say, because they usually go for about a 1/3 to 1/4, or it's somewhere around 1/3, 1/4, 1/5. Of the roster is usually female. I think I added up all the games and averaged it out at one point, and usually the average is about MK9, it was about 1/4, MKX is about 1/4 of the roster were females. So say we get 20, say on a 24 characters, that's 6 characters. So if we're getting 31 characters this time around, if the site is any indication of how many we might get, I would hope we get around 8 characters.
Well, we got 6 last time on a 24 character roster, and then with Zatanna and Batgirl it went up to 8.
Yeah, which is makes sense. So I'm hoping we get 8 this time, before DLC. I'm talking. If it's 31 characters, I would expect 8. If it's 31 characters starting roster, 8 females makes sense and is very reasonable. So that would leave 2 characters that aren't on either of these lists that could potentially make the game still. I'm still pulling for Katana, but at this point I'm starting to lose feeling like she's going to be in the game, at least not at the starting roster.
That's how I feel about Spectre. I feel like with the atmosphere they're setting up, Spectre just seems less and less likely. I mean, this atmosphere makes me want him more, because I would like something juxtaposed onto the gritty sci-fi vibe they got going right now. But I will say this, though. Like you, I am partial to Ivy over Swamp Thing. Just because, and like I think Razor said the same thing. I don't know where Shadowloo stands on this, but I prefer Ivy over Swamp Thing just because from a visual design, I think she's just going to look better. I'm not married to the appearance of Swamp Thing as a character. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that.
He is just kind of a big green body.
I don't know if you guys have actually read Swamp Thing. Any of you?
Nope.
No.
I've read some.
It's fucking weird. Like, I would prefer Ivy over Swamp Thing in this game. I'm not opposed to the idea of Swamp Thing, but it's fucking weird to see this character in a fighting game. It would be very bizarre. It's like Neil Gaiman's Sandman or something. As in, like, Swamp Thing can fuck you up. It's just that, he doesn't do a lot of fist fighting. It's not that kind of a comic.
He's one of those characters who's sort of beyond violence.
That's the thing of it, yeah. I have no problems with the theory of him being present in a game, but if you're gonna give me a choice of who belongs in a fighting game more, it's Poison Ivy.
Okay, but what you're forgetting is that maybe Swamp Thing is above the violence, but that's before the rage.
Anyway, somehow making the wine taste shittier in my mouth.
Good.
I don't know how that's possible.
Shout out to who was it on MKO that really liked Swamp Thing? I was really pulling for him. Was that man? I'm forgetting his damn name. Was Dysol maybe? Dysol? Is it ring a bell? Anyways,
I don't know.
Okay, well either way, Darkhound, Dysol, one of them. Either way, I know Swamp Thing has his fans. I like Swamp Thing. I would like him in here. My wife actually reads a lot of the Swamp Thing comics, so I do have the comics. I just haven't made the time to read them. But so I hear good things about him. But what I envisioned for Swamp Thing, and when I said it earlier, and I've said it on the Facebook group as well, I think Swamp Thing and Ivy would play dramatically different. That's also why I don't see them being a simple swap from each other, like a premiere costume or whatever. Is I envision Swamp Thing to be the Grundy replacement. I expect Swamp Thing to be up in your face, command grabs, but then adding in some, mystical, viney, floral type elements, flora elements, plant life elements to him in some degree. Maybe he heals. I have no idea. But I envision more of that mixed with Grundy's kind of up in your face style. Because Swamp Thing's going to be more of a mid to big brute, whereas Ivy, she's going to be, Ivy. So, yeah.
Well, I would get a good laugh if they do actually make Swamp Thing Premier Skin. And for a super move, he binds you and gives you a kiss. I think that would be some good shit if that's me. I would laugh.
Puts his hands on his hips for his win pose.
You've got so many characters out there that would be better suited as dumb brutes. And even assuming Swamp Thing is actually in this game, I feel that's the wrong kind of style to have him play as. He'd be a trap character or some shit. Wouldn't feel right.
Lays on his stomach, twirls his legs, puts his finger in his mouth. Anyways.
I like
one of Swamp Thing Ivy. Sorry.
One of Ivy's iconic poses is make a playground swing out of vines and look playfully swinging on it. Swamp Thing doing that.
No, thank you.
No, it makes sense. Okay,
I'm sold, but yeah.
Anyways, I think Ivy's cool. We're all in agreement there, and looking forward to her gameplay to see how they execute her. Moving on to, who was next? Brainiac. Brainiac was probably the next one revealed. Yeah, Brainiac. Who wants to start with Brainiac? Shadowloo, go for it.
Why sold Dr. Octopus? No, I'm fucking around. It's about goddamn time that fucking Brainiac got some high-profile exposure, people. Seriously. Good shit.
I know, right?
Listen, I like the fact that they're kind of going for a mixture of the classic and the kind of silver exoskeleton looks, but I'm just missing that silver skull. It's gonna be in the game as an accessory. It's gonna happen, but I need to see it. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I have absolutely no idea how he's gonna play. I assume it's going to be very hard to get in, to actually get into and rush down. I see him as very defensive somehow. Maybe it's all the fucking arms everywhere all at once. And I can't even tell how many arms are even fucking there. It looks like, what, two and one another? I've been drinking. I don't even remember.
Little did you know.
No guarantee those are all of his arms either.
Yeah, little did you know it's actually 4 of his tentacle arms, and Doc Ock is just riding on his back like a backpack with his additional 4 arms as well.
That's what I thought originally, but I second guessed myself.
You guys said a lot of things.
He does have his own robot tentacles. It doesn't have to be Dr. Octopus.
No, it is Doc Ock.
No, I just could not be any fucking happier that, one of Superman's villains, who is not Lex Luthor or Metallo, finally got some goddamn fucking exposure. Seriously, it was about time. Good shit. Hope he hurts people.
Razor?
I fucking love Brainiac. I've said this before. I agree with Shadowloo that Superman's, Metallo, Brainiac, and Parasite, I think, are way undervalued. And, because it's always Lex or Zod in everything. And fucking Brainiac is a cool character. Like he's had so many different origins and looks throughout the years in the comics. Like sometimes he's a guy from an alien planet who goes all cyborg and takes to space. Sometimes he's the AI that controlled the planet Krypton that bailed when it blew up. And sometimes
I'm a very big fan of that one, actually. I love that one.
Yeah, it's a good one too. But like the you were talking about the one where he's all silver and he's like just his head is just a skull with like a big brain globe on the top. I'm sure that look will be available somehow, but they're obviously going for a more organic Brainiac.
It's a mixture, I feel.
Yeah.
There's enough silver going on that it calls back to the whole skull exoskeleton look.
Yeah, I mean his most common look is basically sort of this, where it's cybernetic and he's got a face, but he's also mostly robot body. And I think it works. Like, as long as you get the dots on the cranium, and his skin, if he has skin, is bluish green or just plain green, and they nailed that part at least. So I mean, he looks good. He's one of those rare characters who I guess lends themselves already to the Injustice art style without them having to invent stupid armor.
Right.
So that's working in their favor, I suppose. Because it's not like the Flash, where how do we put our fucking Iron Man suits on the guy who runs fast and needs to be flexible?
I want to see Lex Luthor in the gear system and just have a full-on suit of armor over his suit of armor.
Well, that's actually, I was gonna make a joke, like, Brainiac's face looks so much like a green version of Lex Luthor that I think it would actually be funny if, like, something in this game could maybe do it, is, like, Brainiac is a full robot and he takes over Dead Lex's corpse or something.
It's possible. I mean...
So basically just like the, again, Alan Moore comic.
Yeah, Alan Moore did it. There was an episode of Justice League Unlimited where the two of them were sharing a body for a bit.
Yeah, and they had that whole thing going on in Red Sun.
It comes directly from whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I forget who did it, but like someone snapped Lex's neck and like Brainiac took over the corpse. So like it was just like this robot skull on top of Lex's zombified body running around. It was pretty funny.
I'm pretty sure Kevin Smith's Superman script that never got made ended with Lex and Brainiac merged into a single person too. It
seems to be kind of destiny, isn't it?
This reminds me of later on in the Batman animated series where Mr. Freeze was just like that head on the spider, robot spider. That thing was stupid.
I loved that.
The thing was awful.
It was so fucking creepy.
Yeah, it was very creepy.
I loved it.
I just imagine myself waking up and that thing's hanging from my, like, it's just up in the corner. And
I also loved that he was actually fine after that in like Batman Beyond. He got his body back and shit.
Exactly.
He retired. He lived a normal life.
I think they had his head in a refrigerator and they just attached it to
They did.
I don't think he had his body back. No, wait, no, there was they cloned him and put his brain in the clone. And then thought he was cured. But then the clone slowly started getting his cryo disease or whatever.
That was it.
But yeah, bringing it back to Brainiac, my thoughts on Brainiac are, I was with you guys. I really would have liked to see like Black Hand or something like that leading. I believe we talked about that in our wish list as being the main villain and just having a big intergalactic battle with a lot of lanterns brought into it. Maybe lantern versions of the characters we have. But if that's not the case, I think Brainiac is a very exciting choice as well. I mean, I didn't want Darkseid to be the main villain. Hopefully he's not, but it looks like we have Brainiac in store for that role, or at least playing one of the main villains, and I think that's really cool. So far, he looks really cool. I'd be interested to see what his gameplay is like. I imagine kind of like a Lex, but a lot more mind-gamey and using those tentacles and all that fun stuff. No weirdness intended. Anyways, Temp, thoughts?
Have we discussed Darkseid?
He's next. He's next, yeah.
I mean, I actually don't know too much about Brainiac. What I know is the Krypton origin story. I didn't even know there were alternate origin stories for Brainiac, but I think it looks good. I mean, this is the picture I was studying now while you guys were talking, and I think it's a great choice. I think it's really refreshing. I think he's a great contrast to the kind of characters we got in Injustice 1. Just like a lot of the Injustice 2 roster is. I think he's kind of like a Gorilla Grodd, or he's kind of like an Atrocitus, where he doesn't feel like he doesn't fit a mold of either the typical rogue or the typical villain, which is a lot of what Injustice was. But I don't have too much more to say about that. I will admit, I never associate him with tentacles, so when I see Brainiac and he's got tentacles, yep. It was a little weird. I did think Doc Ock and other things, but the thing about Brainiac that looks cool is I think he's very well rendered. Like, if you look at that photo I posted, he looks like a next-gen console fighting game character. He looks really good. So, yeah, I wish I had more to say. I wish I knew more about Superman, but Superman, like a lot of DC comic book characters, it's hard to find a starting point if you're trying to get into it. Marvel, I think is much better about that. Like, you want to get into a Marvel character or Marvel series, it's much easier to find an archive point to start at. And I never saw the Superman animated series, unfortunately. I would like to watch that one day.
All right. Well, let's move on to Darkseid then. He's our last on the list and last we'll cover on this episode. So, thoughts on Darkseid? You sounded like you had something to say, Shadowloo?
God, I can't fucking stand this character. Holy shit. I do not care. I do not care about Darkseid. You know what I love most about Darkseid? The fact that Marvel basically created a clone character called Thanos of Titan who does everything Darkseid does, but better. Okay? Darkseid is the epitome of boring.
Laser eyes that change direction in midair.
That is literally the only
He
cool
does.
thing
I saw that.
him. Do you know what Darkseid also does? He surprises you by coming out of your barn. Okay, have you read this?
Oh yeah, is
Batman versus.
I've never heard of it, but that phrase makes me laugh.
There was a Batman Superman comic, like 8 issues in. Like all this shit happens, and like at one point, Superman like comes home to like Smallville, and like Darkseid is just hiding in his barn, and he just bursts open the entire like the most fucking ignominious place for a god among dark gods to hide.
This is actually...
Why are you hiding in a barn?
Darkseid kind of does this a lot. Like there's a running joke in DC where a character will come home to find Darkseid like sitting on their couch. Like he frequently just goes to people's homes and sits and waits for them to get there.
That's awesome. Them. That's great.
There's this
pretty tight.
There's this, and there's that like really fucking hilarious issue, also of Batman Superman, I think, where he loses all of his powers for some godforsaken reason, and just like there are these steps leading up to his throne. They're not even high steps, man. They're like long, wide, and flat, and he falls down the stairs. And no one says anything.
That's tight. I love it.
There's like, and then like there's this old Ambush Bug comic from the 1980s, which has an image I can only describe as McDarkseid. Because Ambush Bug is basically like a variation on, well, not a variation on Deadpool, but like he fills the comic relief mold of the DC comics in the way that like Deadpool does for
he breaks
Marvel
all a lot.
Yeah, all the time. So his comics are ridiculous, and there is in this series one of my absolute favorite comic images of all time, which is of Darkseid looking utterly browbeaten, demoralized, dehumanized, wearing a fucking McDonald's cap behind a cash register and giving you a Happy Meal. I can't take Darkseid as a character seriously. The only way Darkseid gets my approval is if he pitches Mickey D's at you. Fuck the character. He's a living joke. Moving on.
That could be good.
You know what? He's been misused. Thanos has some pretty dumb moments too. There's the classic, the first time he got his hands on the Cosmic Cube, and like the Avengers are fighting him, and he's oops, I dropped
let go of the cube, and then he gets arrested.
Yeah,
that's all that happens. Oh, Mr. Butterfingers.
Thanos is flying a helicopter.
There are very few characters that have been touched by stupidity in one form or another, but just I have a special amusement when it comes to Darkseid, because it's just, oh god, he's supposed to be like an epic god among gods or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. He's like the god of evil in the DC.
I'm gonna
universe.
add this to the chat just so you can see how I see Darkseid. I'll stop the laughter to its own.
But the longer a character exists, the more likely that they're going to be drawn doing something stupid.
This is true.
All right, Temp, Darkseid, anything?
I think his design looks really good in this game. The trailer design, I'm trying to pull it up.
You know what else I've realized?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I know he can turn his head, but a lot of the time, it looks like he's having like the Michael Keaton Batman cowl problem.
Yeah.
I find myself looking at this guy and wondering, how the fuck do you turn your fucking head, you fucking necklace wonder?
Oh my
His
God.
helmet is like...
I've never... There's a lot of things about that character I just generally don't care for.
His body shape is very Juggernaut.
I mean, I think I was not like super fond of his design in the Stage Interactable or in the Injustice mobile app, but here it looks really good. Like I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's just the the CGI rendered cut scene, but I think it looks good. If his animations look good, I would be down. But I don't really think of really cool animations when I think of someone like Thanos or Darkseid, quite frankly. So I mean, I'm open-minded. Like, hell, I could main that character if they make him cool enough, but that's on them. They gotta sell me. I'm open-minded. I'm interested. They have my attention, but I don't honestly. I do like Darkseid in the Justice League cartoon. I think he has a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy watching his stuff. I like him and Superman being in the same room because I feel like he's always trying to like tell Superman what he wants to hear, and he always gets the feeling that Superman kind of wants to believe him, but gets pissed because he knows it's all false,
There's an interesting dynamic in the animated series, especially when they get to Justice League, where of all the villains they fight, the only one that ever really makes Superman, like, mad is Darkseid. And, like, mad enough to kill, which is almost out of character, but it's still, like, that shows how dangerous Darkseid is, or how manipulative and what an asshole he is.
It works well.
He's the guy who gets under Superman's skin.
And it's subtle, too. I really feel like when I read the... Well, what's that?
That is, like, a quality of the character that I do find very, very promising. There are no lines he will not cross. He will absolutely do anything to get what he wants, and he does a good job of communicating that in a lot of the works he's in. I'll give him that much. Still, I mean, my contact at WB gives me a free protocol because I don't want to pay money for this guy.
He comes off as a villain who's very patient, and patience is not something you see in a villain very often. And he's very human too. At least I only know Darkseid from the Justice League cartoon, but when I encountered Darkseid in the Justice League New 52 comics, he was awful. No presence, not interesting whatsoever. Now, granted, I stopped reading shortly after the first 10 or so issues, but
he doesn't really appear much after that. Like, the New 52 definitely treated him as just like a big brute that they need to beat up. He barely gets any lines. Yeah, it was a problem.
That's such a shame. That's awful.
But, like, that was the problem with the New 52 Justice League, like, that first arc, is it was written like a Michael Bay movie, where, like, it's just about the action, and there's almost no dialogue in general.
I also like to put across the fact that he is the Lord of Apocalypse, and Apocalypse in this instance is spelled Apokollips, which is fucking stupid. Anyway.
Okay. All right.
I always kind of like that everything was spelled wrong.
Yes, but you can spell it wrong, and, like, at least use a fucking Y or something. Don't, like, put lips in the goddamn... Something about the whole fucking... Dark
it was
side
70s, man.
All right.
It's
all right.
Try not to be a negative Nancy here, but
no, that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. We're wrapping it up on that.
Well, before we wrap up, I have two things to say about Injustice.
You are the worst. Go ahead.
I just want to get this out. So my first thing is, first of all, I'm sure that just like Goro, this motherfucker won't be in story mode at all.
And that's redeeming quality. All right, sorry.
I mean, on one hand, that's a shame because it's like, if he's in the game day one, how could they not squeeze him in there? He might as well not even exist. But on the other hand, Darkseid has a tendency to take over whatever story he appears in, and I would rather have Brainiac be the end boss. So there's that.
Maybe he'll make a cameo in storyboard where he falls down the fucking stairs.
Sorry. My second thought, and this really applies to not just because their reveal of Darkseid mirrors the very first reveal trailer for the game, where everybody, as they walk, increasingly gets more and more armor Tony Starked onto their bodies. My question is, why does a space god whose skin is made of rock need armor that moves and expands?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I do not have a good answer to that.
You ever think that, like, each of the 52 universes is made of, I don't know, armor? Maybe armor separates each of the universes?
Whichever world in the multiverse Injustice is, it's a planet made of armor.
Why is there so much armor in DC, man? What is wrong?
There's not. It's just Boone.
Hey, you know what? It's psychological. But it's not just Boone. I mean, it was a New 52 thing.
Okay,
a lot of the time, armor is psychologically indicative of insecurity. That's what I'm saying here, man.
Jim Lee, who
people are afraid to let the love in.
He was trying to recreate the 90s because that was his heyday, and now he was in charge of DC all of a sudden, and he's like, I'm going to make it hip and edgy and cool for the teenagers, like my books were when they were popular and sold a whole lot of copies a fucking decade and a half ago.
Actually, on that topic, and no shitting from me this time, you know what I do appreciate about one of Flash's looks? The armor over the solar plexus. You know why? Imagine you're fucking running around at light speed or close to it, and someone is just canny, savvy, or skilled enough to deck you in the fucking gut as you come at them. You're throwing your guts up, man. Armor over the solar plexus makes sense.
I mean, first of all, that's kind of where he keeps his logo anyway.
Second, true enough. A little bit higher, but anyway.
The thing about the Flash is part of his power set is a force field.
Oh, yes, the force fields.
I mean, that's the entire reason that he's able to run as fast as he is without, like, friction hurting him.
Yeah, but I mean, this is heroes versus villains. Heroes, bad guys versus bad guys.
He can punch at super speed without breaking his hands.
for every one of those fuckers that has a force field, there's another one of those fuckers that can punch through that force field. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, but
Superman's got a force field too, and it's a force field of plot convenience. It is brought up when it needs to be brought up, and it is discarded just as easily.
But the thing about Superman is he doesn't even need the force field.
Dear God, would you two just shut the fuck up? Just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Right. We're making out over here.
We'll have plenty of time to talk next week as we continue
these hearing our sloppy kisses.
These rumblings. I'm going to edit this show, put it right up, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We should be doing this on a weekly basis now. At least we're going to try our best to do so. So no short of time to talk next week, and you guys have a good one. We'll see you next week for episode 50.
That was pathetic.